believe it, everybody. I'm walking into Cherry Ridge with bow in hand. It's my opening day of archery season, even though it's October 3rd. Had a pretty wild last 3-4 days here. My wife gave birth to our first son, our first child. His name is Knox Vernon Bailey. And what a whole experience that was. Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, though. We're gonna sneak in here and climb up into the stump 4. There's been a ton of big mature does feeding out in these food plots, and everybody that follows along on my channel knows that I am a big doe's worst nightmare the first week of archery season. We're going to sneak in here and see if we can't get a shot at a big doe. Deer tracks crossing right here. That's about 25 yards from the stump 4. Right here's where I want to get the shot, because I think I can get the pass through on that camera. Look at that deer trail. Okay, here we are. Well, I just climbed up into the stump 4 and just getting everything around ready here. I went ahead and freshened the scrape with this Wyoming County whitetail buck here, and on my way in, it's definitely getting some action on it. Oh. Jeez, deer coming out. I just got in here. Little one. Oh, looks like another one's coming out over here into Nebraska. Little buck. Boy, we got here just in time. I'll give you guys an overview of everything. So this first plot right here, this is all winter wheat and buck forage oats. And that was all planted September 1st. And then that plot is all backwoods buffet from Ravlin Hill. Oh, there's another deer right on the edge with that little buck. And that's the plot I was able to get a bunch of water to. I had originally planted both this first plot and that middle plot to that brassica blend, and this first plot was a failure. But I was able to water this one in the middle because of the creek. And then that far plot is all real world clover and chicory. And then where I ripped the stumps out, I planted to the harvest salad. So we got a lot of different stuff going on right here, but there's certainly a lot of food for the deer. They spend just about all day out here, and it's one of the reasons there's 15 to 20 doe that are in here every night, and I'd like to start knocking some of those out. So the shot that I'm planning on a bunch of these deer coming out right out here, and then they're going to work right through these plots, and they're going to work right around, right to this opening right here. And a lot of times either across the creek, or they walk right up this path right here, and I plan on trying to shoot her right there. That's the perfect, scenario. I mean, if she's just standing out there in the buck forage oats and the wheat, giving me a good shot, I'll just let her have it out there. That little buck's making his way out to the wheat. Shooting 125 grain, 4-blade Grim Reapers. With a Pierce LRT gold tip, 250 grain arrow. It is extremely hot right now, and we have a wind out of the southwest, which is why I chose the stump 4 instead of the stump 3. A lot of these deer that are coming out right out in front, and my wind's actually kind of going straight toward the creek here, which gives me, plenty of time to get a shot before, they were to wind me if they were gonna. There's no, mature deer bucks wise down in this area at this point in the season. There's 2 deer that could eventually end up in this particular area. One that I call a unit, which was a deer that I called the heavy 8 last year that I found both his sheds to this spring. He's only a 4.5-year-old deer, so it makes me almost hesitant. I'd like to not see that deer really. I mean, if you could get that to 5.5, he's a really nice deer this year, but I know he's only 4.5, which is kind of a weird thing to think about. But there's another really mature buck that I called the Heavy 9 last year. He's a deer that's spending most of his time to the east of where we're at right now as well. And that's a super mature buck. He actually got a little bit smaller from last year, but he's just a cow. I mean, huge, massive bodied buck. And he's 6.5, 7.5, super old deer. I can track him for a long time. I've got years of sheds from him. In fact, last year was the first year I hadn't found one of his sheds in a long time. And the neighbor actually found his one side last year. So those are the two deer that I know, are eventually going to probably be in the area, but, very rarely here right now. You always have deer that show up when it gets closer to the rut. There's probably a mature buck on some neighboring properties that might end up in this area, but the number one buck that I'm going to be hunting isn't on this particular piece of property that we are hunting right now. He's on a different piece, and he's a beautiful deer. He's a 5.5-year-old buck, and call him Hulk Jr. He reminded me of a deer a few years ago that my Uncle John shot that we called Hulk, just a really massive, heavy beam buck. And that's why I came up with the name Hulk Jr., because he's a kind of a spitting image of him with his mass. So that's how he came up with the name Hulk Jr. And each year he disappears. Soon as that first week in November comes, poof, smoke, gone. So it's a deer that if we were going to get an opportunity at him, we'd have to do it really, really soon, early. I can't hunt it with a southwest wind, which is why I'm not in there right now. It's got to be something other than southwest. There's where he's bedding and where he's moving right before dark. Impossible to hunt him with a southwest wind. And a big mature buck like that, you don't have numerous opportunities. You go busting in there with a questionable wind and you bump him out, you're screwed. So I'm going to wait for the right wind, and we're going to get in after him. He's a deer that I think is killable. He's daylighted in front of my camera a few different times, and it's one that I'm super excited about. It's just a freaking toad of a buck. So that's one that I'm going to be really mostly focused on for at least the foreseeable future while he's still on our property. I'm afraid, like I said, he's going to eventually disappear. Each year I thought he was killed. When he was 3 and he disappeared in my eyes dead. Showed back up as a 4-year-old. Last year, disappeared in my eyes dead. Showed back up this year as a 5-year-old. So I don't know where he goes, but he obviously has a good hiding spot wherever he leaves and goes to. And there's obviously nobody that's really pursuing him too hard, because somebody would eventually get an arrow or a bullet in him. But that's a deer I'm really excited about, and I'm going to bring you along with me when we go after him. In the meantime, I really like to get a lot of my doe tags filled early on, especially on these hidey hole plots, because they eat a ton of it. You don't realize how much a big doe will eat, but a lot of people have their own opinions about shooting doe and when to shoot them or whatever. I want to get those does killed immediately. One is you save a lot of your forage and your food plots. 2, they taste a lot better. These deer are browsing on clover, oats, wheat, grains right now. It's just they taste better. As to shooting them in late November, December time frame, they taste like not as good to me. They've been browsing on twigs and tree limbs and stuff at that point. So that's the second reason. The third reason is those doe fawns. When you shoot, a big doe that has a couple doe fawns with her, those doe fawns will make this home. They don't like leaving the area at that point. And what that does is creates an awesome situation later on in November when they cycle into heat. You have like these really uneducated doe fawns run around here in heat, and what that does is any big bucks in particular, they come in here and they'll just run those doe fawns to, you wouldn't believe it. And of course, they don't like leaving this area. You're gonna have a good hunt. So those are just a few of the reasons. You know, the fawns aren't reliant on their moms at this point either. So the other thing I've noticed too is these big doe are bullies. I mean, they'll run deer right off these plots and act like they own the place. You know, even bucks. I've noticed over the years, the more doe I shoot back here, the more bucks actually spend time back here. It's like they don't like being around them. Obviously, during the rut, when they come in heat, they do, but they don't like just spending time with them when it's not the rut. So, from my observations, and I've observed a lot of deer for a lot of time, over a lot of years, so take it, take it as you will. I think I covered a lot of it. Let's sit back, relax, and see if we can get a big doe within bow range tonight. So far it seems like the deer are preferring the winter wheat and forage oats over everything else, which is great because that stuff is super cold hardy. I mean, that'll stay green while everything else dies off. I've got to let you guys in on a little secret. There's a special deer call that works absolutely amazing and nobody really knows other than me. It's really simple. It's not a gimmick. It's not some, crazy outlandish thing. It's that. All you have to do is chew on an apple really loud and deer will just come. You think I'm kidding? Give it a try.
Well, I made it back to the house, everybody, and I wanted to wrap this hunt up. And the deer that I was telling you about, the #1 buck that I'm going to be hunting this year, Hulk Jr., just walked right up the trail by my cell cam. That was at, what time was it? 7:40 p.m. So he's using that same avenue to get out to the feed that he's been feeding on. It's actually a mix between last year's new seeding and a cornfield. So I think it's just going to take a little cooler weather and a wind that's not out of the west or southwest. I can't do it on those types of winds. So it's exciting though to see him up and moving around this early in the season like that. I wanted to mention to you guys too, if you use my code, it'll get you a 20% discount on Onyx. Obviously, I use Onyx all the time. I map out and mark all my trail cameras, tree stand locations, map all my food plots and everything. And I can use Onyx to map out the perimeter of the food plot and measure exactly how much acreage is in each one. So the other thing I wanted to mention too is the huge savings you can have on Tideweed's website right now. They have stuff 64% off, 53% off, 29% off. If you add my code KEO20 or KEO18, it'll get you additional 20 or 18% off. So some huge deals. If you guys are needing any hunting apparel or gear right now, take advantage of it. Till tomorrow, have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching.